Here are 6 stretches for your hips. A lot of people have hip problems, hip pain, knee pain even, low back pain, and it can all be related to the muscles in your hips. Let me show you what's going on here. So here's some anatomy here, and we'll be focusing on the back of the legs, the hamstrings, the glutes, and some of the stabilizer muscles underneath the glutes. There are 6 different stabilizer muscles that work to stabilize you, hold you together so you can be active, so you can do the things that you want to do back there. And then in the front, we'll look at the quadriceps. We'll look especially at the rectus femoris. I'll show you a special stretch for that. And we'll look at the hip flexors, including the psoas, the iliopsoas, and the iliacus, I should say. So let's dive right in. When you're stretching, there's a few different ways you can do it. Ideally, you want to do it at least 45 seconds or so. The reason being is because it takes about 30 seconds just for the muscle fibers to relax. The way that muscle fibers work is they're kind of like holding hands, so to speak, and they twist up to contract, and it takes about 30 seconds into a stretch just before they even start to stretch, and you start to get a real stretch. Your brain is always trying to stabilize and guard and protect, and so sometimes it takes a little bit just to overcome that, reprogram our brain for what is safe. Of course, if you're not strong in a certain area, your body's going to get tighter because it needs to stabilize you. So you need to be strong throughout your body in order to maintain a good stretch and maintain flexibility. So strengthening and stretching, both very important parts of keeping you mobile, keeping you moving for the long run. So the first one, there's 4 that are standing and there's 2 that are sitting. So let's just do the simple ones first. Standing up, we're going to stretch the inside of our legs. These are the adductors. There are 5 muscles on the inside of the leg. And we just want to lean here, legs pretty far apart. We don't want to be leaning towards the bent knee. We want to be leaning towards the opposite knee. I think that's a yoga pose called warrior, I believe. Back in the day, I used to do a lot of yoga. So right in there, getting that nice stretch. Good. And we, of course, we want to balance it out, doing both sides. Holding for 45 seconds. On the next stretch is the outside of the hip, the abductors. This is your gluteus medius, maybe TFL, maybe a little bit of that IT band situation, and we're just stretching here. This leg that is bent, I'm not even putting any weight on this leg. I can lift this leg up and move it freely. But if we get that outside of the hip, outside of the leg here, that can really help stretch out and make your hips feel better and move better and function better. Good. And of course, both sides again there. The next one is for your hip flexor. Some of you might know this. It's called the iliopsoas muscle, and we're going to stretch it in a lunge fashion. Now, for this, make sure that your butt is not sticking out. Make sure that your tailbone is tucked underneath you, and that'll actually give you a better stretch. So this muscle attaches to your spine. It's coming out through your lumbar spine, your L1, 2, 3, 4, sometimes L5, sometimes T12, and it attaches to your leg. So when you're flexing your hip, you're actually approximating your femur to your spine, which is pretty interesting if you ask me. So we want to have a deep stretch there and feel it right in the front of our hip. You can play with it, twist around here a little bit. I'll give a summary of all these at the end too. The next stretch, standing, is for the quadriceps. Now, many times people just stretch their quadriceps like this, and you are getting a good stretch there. But there's one muscle in the quadricep, quad meaning 4, there's 4 muscles in the quadricep. One of those muscles, the only one of those 4, that actually crosses the hip joint. And so in order to get a good stretch on that, we have to extend. So here, and extending the hip as well. A way to do that, a modified way to do that, which might be a bit easier, is putting your knee on a table or on the couch or something at home, taking a step forward and sinking into it there. And you'll get a nice deep stretch. You can even push your back foot, push it into your hand a little bit, just to contract it and then relax it and sink in deeper. Wonderful stretch for the hips. The next stretch, there's 2 seated, is of course the hamstrings. One of the biggest mistakes that people make when stretching their hamstrings is they round their low back too much. So for the hamstring stretch, we're just going to do one leg at a time. You can do two if you like, but sometimes it's a lot easier to do one at a time, either on the floor or on the couch at home. Straight knee, lift your chest up, and just hinge at your hip forward. See, I'm not going as far. If I was to round my back, I'd be going all the way down. But we don't want to stretch your low back with this. We just want to lift your chest, hinge at your hips forward, just like so. And that, you get a nice burn, nice stretch right in those hamstring muscles. There's 4 of those as well. The last one of the 6 stretches for your hips here is for some of the glutes, but mainly it's for the stabilizer muscles of your hip, including your piriformis muscle and a few other deeper ones. So lifting your chest here, moving your chest towards your knee. You can grab your knee with both hands, hinge at your hip forward, and you can even pull up. And if you can get all the way down, you can wrap your arm around it and just hug that knee in towards the midline of your body. Good. So those are the 6 stretches. Again, the adductor stretch here, the abductor stretch for the outside of the hip flexor stretch, more of a lunge, the quadricep stretch with the hip extension for the rectus femoris muscle, the hamstrings here, and the hip stabilizers here. Hope you have a wonderful day. I hope this helps. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Look forward to talking with you in the future. Bye-bye.